What's up? It's Rowan here from Art of Smart Education with another weekly HSC Economics stats update. In these weekly videos, in a couple of minutes, I'm going to summarize for you all of the key stats you need from around the domestic and global economy for the HSC Economics course, and I'm going to share with you how you can utilize it in your essays to score those band sixes. So let's dive right in. So the first thing I want to share with you is that the Fair Work Commission each year conduct their annual wage review, and they have recently just announced that they have increased the national minimum wage and minimum award wages by 3.75%. So note, in Australia there is a national minimum wage, but there is also across the 121 awards that have minimum wages for each of these respective awards. And so what Fair Work does is they make determinations each year on what that minimum wage will be for the new financial year. Now they've said here 3.75% for the national minimum wage, but also this will apply across, as you can see here, all of the other awards as well. Now, what's the rationale behind this? How have they weighed this, and what are the implications, and how might you use it in your essays? So they produce a 70-page, almost detailed annual wage review document, which basically unpacks their reasons for why they've made this decision. Now, what they've highlighted here is that at the end of the day, the reason they've done 3.75% is because of the primary consideration of cost of living pressures, particularly because modern award-reliant employees tend to be low-paid or in low-income households. So they thought that it was going to be really critical, to provide a minimum wage increase because their purchasing power would be eroded and inequality in living standards would erode particularly for them. Now note, part of this is because at the moment, the modern minimum wages in real terms are lower than they were 5 years ago, notwithstanding last year's 5.75% increase and this coming 3.75%. And that's because of the impact of inflation. Now note, they've said though that they didn't put it greater than 3.75% because at the same time, labour productivity is no higher than it was 4 years ago, and productivity growth has only recently returned to positive territory. So in other words, what they're saying here is if they put it any higher, they're concerned that it will in turn create further inflationary pressures in the economy, therefore worsening the exact thing that they were trying to solve, right? So remember, labour productivity and productivity growth is the things that enable wage growth without inflationary pressure. Now, they've also taken into account, though, fiscal policy here, and they have identified that, that they're going to shortly receive stage 3 tax cuts and budget cost of living measures, which are projected to increase real household disposable incomes, in addition to the superannuation guarantee increasing as well. So they've said these are moderating factors that they've balanced, and so what you can look at is you can look at this as part of the policy mix. Now, how might you utilize this in your essays? Number one, this is going to form under, labour market reform, microeconomics. If you're talking about changes in the labour market, this is one of the things that you can highlight here as part of recent changes, an increase in the minimum wage. Secondly, if you're looking at, government policies and its impact on living standards, income inequality or inflation, the minimum wage here is something that you could consider to discuss in terms of its role and impact. And additionally, finally, if you're looking at a bigger picture, like policy mix, you can also look at how both micro and macro, fiscal policy and micro in terms of the labour market changes here are working in tandem to achieve these objectives. Now, in addition this week, what we've also seen is we've seen the RBA meet. Now, note the RBA meet now, every 2 months, right? As part of the, the review of the RBA and monetary policy, they used to meet monthly. They're now meeting every 2 months, and they just updated their monetary policy decision. Now, they produce a media release, which is a great read, as well as their minutes that they produce a little bit after the meeting. But what we can see here is that they've decided to leave the cash rate unchanged, So the cash rate target is unchanged at 4.35%. Now, in part, why are they doing this? Well, they're concerned, at the moment that in April, the monthly CPI indicator rose by 3.6% headline terms, 4.1% excluding volatile items and holiday travel. Now, that's similar to December. So in some respects, they're saying, look, inflation's sort of gone a little bit back to where it was. We thought we had sort of gone over that hump, and it looks like it's coming back. And in part, they're saying that there still continues to be excess demand in the economy with some elevated cost pressures, right? Now, they do think wage growth has peaked, but it is still above a level, that they think can be really sustained given productivity growth, i.e. means that it may be slightly inflationary in pressure and driving some of the ongoing inflationary pressure. Now, In part, why have they chosen to hold? A lot of that is because of uncertainty, okay? What they're highlighting here is that they're uncertain on a number of things, right? Number one, they expected that they would be able to get inflation into the target bracket on the higher end, below 3%, towards the second half of 2025. They're not sure if that's going to happen, okay? Looking at revisions to consumption and savings rate, though, they're concerned, okay? They're also concerned in all of this, okay, with the fact that, will we hit into negative growth and hit into a recession? They're very mindful of trying to navigate that, right, in, maintaining and getting inflation down. So they're saying, look, we're concerned about that. In saying that, though, there's been an increase in wealth driven by housing prices, which is a little bit interesting because increases in the cash rate, in theory, through the asset price effect, should be dampening house prices, and that hasn't been happening because of supply shortages as well as increased population intake. Big picture, they're also, unclear of the time lag effect of monetary policy in its impact, and how long it will take the transmission mechanism in the prior increases that they've made to flow through into the economy. And so that's a great little bit of analysis that you can bring in when you're talking about the limitations of monetary policy in the time lag, because the RBA really is in some respects needing to stare into a crystal ball, 6 to 18 months into the future to try to understand what the changes they've made will have as an impact. And finally, they're also concerned about the overseas outlook. They're not really sure, output growth seems to have, maybe hit the bottom of the trough, but they're not really sure what's going on. And so at the moment, they're in a holding pattern. So there we have it. We've got the 3 main updates and how you can utilize it in your essays. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments below. If you need more support as you're gearing in to the HSC trials and the HSC exams around the corner, I'm running a weekly HSC Economics class where we do deep dives, systematically unpacking the theory dot point by dot point, deconstructing common short answer questions, detailed essay plans, essay writing to help you get absolutely exam ready for your trials. So if you want more details, drop a comment in below as well, or hit reply to the email. Otherwise, have an amazing week and see you next week with our next update.